Here we have the Dell Inspiron 13-inch 2-in-1 7000 series. Another classic from Dell, and maybe even an XPS competitor. Which one should you buy? Let's find out. To start with, this particular model is configured with a 512 gigabyte solid state drive, a 10th generation i5 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is expandable, and an Intel UHD graphics card, a touchscreen, full high definition, 13-inch, that can be folded into a little tablet. And all of that pizzazz for $679. That is a steal, in my opinion, especially considering the fact that we just reviewed the Dell XPS last week, and it was a great computer, it was awesome, but this thing is almost as good, and it's half the price. First off, the computer is screaming fast. With that 10th generation i5 processor, you've got not only great performance, but you also have fantastic battery life. You can expect to get somewhere in the 7 to 8 hour range with practical use. And I mean, anything you click on, any window or thing you manipulate, it's just gonna blast on by. We've done audio processing on this thing, Photoshop processing on it, and it handled all of it with no problems at all. With the processor and the graphics card combo, you could certainly get away with doing some 1080p video editing. I probably wouldn't err into the 4K side of things because it's again, it's a UHD graphics card. It's not dedicated and it's not the Iris Plus. So there's not a whole lot of graphics horsepower there, but it's certainly enough to drive the full high def screen. As far as gaming is concerned, you could do a little bit of gaming on this, Roblox, Minecraft, and certainly Fortnite, StarCraft 2, that kind of stuff. But again, with that UHD graphics card, you probably don't want to play any kind of AAA titles at max settings. Now let's talk about the display. It is a 13.3-inch bezel-less display. It's still going with that whole infinity, no bezel thing that Dell is really proud about, and they do a really good job. But the screen itself is very good, very neutral in color, not a lot of backlight bleed. The blacks get fairly deep for a non-OLED display. Viewing angles are good. All in all, it's just a pleasurable screen to use. It's a touch screen, if that's your thing, and it's a full high definition, so resolution is crisp. On a 13-inch screen, that FHD looks very, very sharp. Even though it is a good quality panel, it doesn't get quite as bright as the 500 nit screen that the XPS comes with. If anything, it's probably, I didn't look at the official rating on it, but I think it's probably around like the 400 nit rating, maybe 350. You're gonna have this thing on max brightness probably more so than not, which will eat into the battery a little bit, but not enough to really affect things too much. Another cool thing about the screen is if you want to, you can fold it back and make it a tablet. So it can be folded in half, and I don't know anybody that uses that feature, although I suppose if you're a college student, you might have it folded like a sort of like a notebook, and then you could always use like a pen to sort of write notes down and stuff like that. Personally, I don't think it's practical, but if you want it and you like that feature, you have it. Now let's talk about the keyboard and the trackpad. Keyboard is good. It feels good to type on, good full-size keys, it's pleasurable, works well, good shape and size, nice tactile feedback. The silver background with the black lettering is fine in normal use, but if you're in daylight and you've got the backlight on, and it is a backlit keyboard, which is great, but if you have the backlight on the keyboard while you're in regular ambient light, daytime, anything like that, it is almost impossible to see the keys. Luckily, you can, of course, turn off the backlight with the simple press of a button, so that's not that big of a deal, but something worth noting. Now let's talk about the trackpad. The trackpad is pretty terrible. It ghosts a lot or slides around, so basically as you're moving it around the screen, you'll get a lot of sort of like lingering. It's almost like the trackpad is on ice. It just sort of slides just a little bit further than you kind of intended to put it. It's not a deal breaker, and it's not the worst trackpad I've ever used, but by comparison to the Dell XPS, which had a fantastic trackpad, this one is less good. It does distinguish between the left and right clicks very well, and it has a nice tactile click, and I'm sure it's built fine, but you will notice that it's not quite as easy to navigate around on this thing with the trackpad. Simple solution is either A, you get used to it, or B, you get a USB wireless mouse. Comes with wireless AC, which even though they're now coming out with Wi-Fi 6, most people don't have a router to support that, but it does have Bluetooth built in as well. It has a fingerprint scanner, so you can use the built-in Windows Hello feature, but it does not have a facial recognition camera at the top. It just has a standard webcam. So that said, it is a fairly feature-rich notebook, and the webcam is certainly adequate enough for Zoom calls and things like that, but perhaps you won't want to record your next YouTube video on it. It also has dual microphone array here at the top. The speakers on this machine, in my opinion, are better than they were on the XPS. Now, that's not to say that they're still great. They're a little more treble heavy than they are bass supportive. But that said, they do produce a little bit lower ends better than the XPS did, and they do get fairly loud. For the first time ever, we're going to give an audio sample of what this sounds like. Now, personally, I think that it's worthless to do a sound test on an online video because there's no real accurate way to represent how this thing sounds. You just have to hear it in person. But nevertheless, let me know in the comments if you think that this was a good move, and I'll keep doing it. So you tell me, were the speakers any good? I think that they are a little bit better than the XPS, as I said, but that said, you will still want to get a pair of headphones. If you're an audiophile, they will do their job in a pinch just fine. Who is this computer for? I would say that it's probably for students or nonprofits or people that want a nice budget notebook that are traveling a lot. It is built pretty well. It's made of good materials. It's got metal on the surface here, basically a full metal enclosure altogether, and it feels sturdy and like it can take a beating. The hinge is a little wobbly. You might want to be a little bit careful with constantly folding it and unfolding it, and obviously we've seen a lot of notebooks come in that have the hinges basically pulling out of the chassis. And because this is metal, I don't foresee that being an issue, but nevertheless it is something you're going to want to be a little bit careful about when opening. But it's a well-built laptop, and I think can take a bit of abuse, whether you're a student going from dorm to classroom, traveler, journalist, something like this. Who is this computer not for? I don't really think this is for gamers. You could do a little bit of light level gaming on it, but it's not a gaming laptop. It's probably for people that want to do a little bit of audio processing, maybe doing some Photoshops and Photoshop RAWs. Don't really think it's for video editors either, even though you could do some 1080p processing. But with that 512 gigabyte NVMe solid state drive that is in here, it has plenty of space to offer for anybody looking to edit videos, and certainly Photoshop RAWs as well. Now, in terms of expandability, you can upgrade the 512 gigabyte NVMe drive to a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte if you want to. You can also upgrade the RAM in this computer. So in terms of expandability, it does offer a lot, and I really like that. It means that if you buy it and you want to pizzazz it up in the future, you certainly can, unlike the MacBook Pro. So do I recommend this Dell laptop? I really do. I think it's great value at $679. You get a lot of bang for your buck. I think anybody that buys it's going to be very happy with it. It's going to last a while. It's going to be quick, fast, and powerful, and pretty much do anything that you want to do. And if you're not into spending $1,200 plus for a Dell XPS, you can get almost the same experience and performance out of the Inspiron 13-inch 2-in-1. And if you're the kind of person that wants to use pen support, you certainly could, although who's going to? Let's talk about input-output on the Inspiron 13-inch. On this side, you have where you charge it. It doesn't run on solar energy, HDMI, and USB-C. And then on this side, you've got micro camera card, TRRS, dual microphone headphone jack, and traditional USB super speed. I think personally that and it's just going to turn on its own. Now, I personally think that the input and output on this machine is even a little bit better than it is on the Dell XPS, primarily because you do get a traditional USB port and you also get HDMI, which a lot of people like. You have a USB-C port if you want to air that way, and you can of course put a hub for expansion on that, but I think this just allows for a little more versatility, and a lot of people are going to appreciate that. Another thing to note, and again, not a deal breaker, but when this thing goes on full CPU load, the CPU fan does kick in pretty, I want to say it's like super loud, but it's noticeable for sure, and it's not anything that's going to drive people too crazy, and of course after it's done sort of cooling itself down, it'll quiet down pretty quickly. But if you're doing Photoshop RAW editing or audio processing and it's in the middle of basically churning out effects or rendering the video, audio files, whatever it is, you will notice that the fan is going to kick up a little bit. But as of right now, for example, you can't even hear it. It is very quiet under normal operations. But just bear in mind the fan can kick in. We have had some people ask about overheating on these things, and personally we haven't experienced it on a single one of them. So for those that have had overheating issues, please let us know. But we think that it's a very reliable and good computer, and I don't think that that's going to be a problem for most people. So do I recommend the Dell Inspiron 13-inch 2-in-1? Absolutely. It is a fantastic little computer. It's great bang for your buck, and I think anybody that buys it is going to have a great experience with it. If you want to know anything more about the Dell Inspiron 13-inch, please reach out to us in the comments section. Please like and subscribe our videos, people. Please do it. I'm begging you. My children's lives depend on it. And hope you enjoyed the video. We will be back with another one real soon.